All right, everybody, let's get into it and start talking about FTL, Faster Than Light. All right, Aaron, you are the person who suggested this game, so why don't you give us a little bit of a description of what's going on here? And
Well, FTL is another, what's the proper term for a roguelite, where you have randomly generated maps, you have different loadouts that you can go into the game with based on your previous progressions. You have 3 different modes to start in: easy, normal, hard, and they kind of scale the difficulty, which is a little different than most roguelites. But yeah, so this game, it is where you are the captain of a single ship, and your job is to go from one end of known space to the other end of known space and warn your colleagues about an impending invasion. And when you get there, you have to fight the big baddie and beat the game.
okay,
And along those lines, you can take like 6 or 7 different paths from one end of the universe to the other, and each will give you different quests and stories that you have to make choices on, and so on and so forth.
yeah, and whenever you start out the game, it doesn't give you much information at all.
Practically none.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's been forever since I've actually done the tutorial, so I don't even remember what that does.
I did the tutorial, and I got a little bit through it, and I got all the way through the tutorial, but I didn't feel like I had a really good grasp on what section did what and that kind of thing, so I actually looked up YouTube videos, and I feel like I have a pretty decent grasp on it from there. Dan, did you went through the tutorial, right?
Yep.
And how far did you get?
I never beat it, but I got about maybe 2 times. I got about 3/4 of the way through. But it took a while to figure out what I was doing. I didn't feel like the tutorial helped much, like you guys had mentioned. Maybe opening doors to put out fires, because I did that a lot at first. But then that doesn't seem to be as useful later on, because more often than not, the places that the enemies were putting on fire, I couldn't really send the outside lack of air, I suppose, to the correct location without killing everything else on the way.
I know, and it was a really nebulous thing, I feel like, or just maybe I missed it. There's an oxygen level, so you can open the doors and let out or put out the fire that way. But does the oxygen replenish?
If you have power to it, yes.
Oh, that's true, yeah.
Okay.
As long as your oxygen room is powered and you close the doors, then it automatically all comes back.
Because I feel like I closed the doors and the guy still died.
It doesn't come back right away. It has to regain slowly.
And it took me some time to figure out that the healing thing, the health bay, you need to put your guys inside the health bay for them to regenerate. I thought that as long as the health bay was up and running, it should automatically regenerate them, and that's not the case.
Now, there is an add-on, an augmentation that you can get that does that, but they will always regenerate health more quickly if they're in the bay.
Okay.
And actually, there's something you can change your bay over from called the cloning room, something like that. It's a clone chamber, and where whenever your guys die, they can't heal, so they'll just die off. But I think it's on the next jump, you get a clone of them at like half health. So your guys never technically die, but they can die off within that single encounter. It's really weird.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I noticed that I got the second ship unlocked. Is it Engi?
Engi? Yeah. Engi as an engineer.
Oh, that makes sense. They had that augmentation already, so that was kind of handy to spawn up the game right out the gates with that augmentation, where you don't have to send your guys back to have them heal. It made fixing things and stuff easier, especially when there was a fire or low oxygen, because they could kind of sustain a little bit more, and I wouldn't have to walk them all the way back to the med bay in order to heal up before they could go back and continue trying to fix something.
Yeah,
so that is definitely a useful add-on.
I think I had 2 or 3 points in time where something broke. I went to go fix it, and suddenly everybody in my crew was dead.
Yeah.
It was just kind of hard to figure it out, but eventually I got there. I think I got 3 or 4 section in like 4 times. So it's just, for me, the graphics and stuff didn't really do it for me. It was very static, and felt, because it's just you against one ship, and it's never anything different from that. Unless, maybe tell me if I'm wrong here. Does the combat change up in the later games?
The combat, no. It's the same throughout.
It is a novel concept, trying to have your ship and maintain it like the Enterprise or whatever, Star Trek, where you have an engineering bay, you have shields, and you feel like you're really running a spaceship. But I think that there's too many tools in there and too many options where it almost feels tedious rather than fun. And that's just my opinion.
My guess the whole time that I was playing it was that, like most of, and this is only my second roguelite that I played, but I can compare it back to Magicite a little bit. The learning curve is extremely steep, and since they don't have an extensive tutorial, which actually I'm usually okay with, a lot of the times I'd rather figure it out on my own, but since there isn't a whole lot of learning time to it, it gets kind of frustrating in a hurry. But I think it's just because there is such a learning curve to it and figuring out how things work, and kind of you have to save your money to do the things that you want to do, but because it's procedurally generated, you might not get to do that. If you want to have the auto healing, you might not get the chance to buy that during the game, just because of the way it's all going to be randomized. So there's not like a set way you could do it, but I feel like experiencing it more, you'd have a better idea of different things that you can do to your ship that's useful. So as you encounter something, I need to start saving up my scrap for this, because as I get to the end, it's going to ramp up, which it seemed to pretty severely all at once. It's going to ramp up, and then it becomes really hard to do if you don't have certain things. And that's just something, even I'm about 5 hours into playing it, and I didn't have a good grasp on what I could do and what I should be doing without watching any tutorials on YouTube or something, which I didn't do. I just played the game. So.
Yeah, like you said, I think it's all about the genre. I think it does well for not telling you stuff because of the genre. It has to be a die over and over and complete the runs over and over because of the genre. It just didn't click with me, and it hasn't up to this point, and I don't know if it ever will. But I will say, in this game's defense, that there are a ton of people who just love this game to death, and I'm not talking about a few number of people. There are a lot of people that love this game to death, and Aaron, maybe you know better than us why.
I probably don't know why per se, but I don't know. I guess I've had a lot more exposure to it. I actually watched people play this before playing it myself, so I already had, I was already both feet in whenever I started with it. So I think it was like my second or third run ever I beat it. So it's like I've obviously had enough, insight into it to get a head start. So that's why I'm kind of interested in your guys' opinion, because you definitely didn't have the same pre-exposure to it that I did.
Yeah, maybe it's for you, it was or for most people, it was a level of expectation versus how fun it is. And the expectation for me is that I like roguelikes. I don't love them, but I like them. And I like a challenge, and I like sort of not being told a ton what to do. But like Spelunky, for example, you're not really told necessarily what you can do. You're shown the basic move set, but you go in there and even if you don't progress very far, still the little things of jumping on spiders and hitting people and finishing levels, and even if you don't make it to the jungle every time, you're still moving further. You still collected coins, and you died in a cool way. There was some animation there. For this, ending a run feels like, well, I guess I just kind of sucked, and that was no fun. I don't know. Maybe I'm being too harsh.
Yeah, I don't know as if I would level that amount of criticism at it, but I mean, to be sure, this is a game that if you just go into it completely 100% blind, you are not going to succeed quickly. That's 100% true. I don't deny that at all, but I don't know as if I don't know. It doesn't seem that difficult to me, but...
And even like Magicite, as I didn't like Magicite at first, and I didn't feel like I was necessarily progressing, but the music was so great. It was awesome. I mean, I think I told you guys, even a week after doing the video for that, I was still singing that music in my head because it was just that good. I mean, it was great, but the music in this falls so flat. It's so uninspired.
Oh, you think so?
Yeah.
I think it sets a good atmosphere for what you're doing in the vastness of space. It's not like a Star Trek, Star Wars, or anything like that, but it's very atmospheric, and I think it sets a different mood than if it had been more epic. That's my.
It's actually, like, for the most part, the music is actually something that people really praise about this game. I have the soundtrack on because I bought the deluxe edition on Steam, and I listen to that, pretty frequently.
Huh. Wow.
So,
I guess I'm just getting all things wrong in this game. I don't know.
Well, I don't know about wrong, but obviously it shows a difference in taste.
Yeah, maybe I'm finding out that I'm just not a roguelike guy.
And it's funny because I've felt quite the opposite in the past, and I've learned that I am more of a roguelike guy. So it's funny how we kind of diverge in that, because I really like Magicite, I really like FTL. Now, something that kind of defines the genre, like The Binding of Isaac, I probably wouldn't enjoy as much because you don't see any, like, real significant changes run to run. I mean, I don't know, I could go off into a whole tangent about Isaac, but this, it's like, in Magicite, from the very second you hit go, you can completely change your playstyle, and I really like that.
Yeah, with Magicite, there seemed to be much more of a branching, like, okay, you can focus on arrows or dexterity or magic or just straight up attack, where this is, and I have to admit that the little text bubbles telling you what's going on and what's going on here, that is kind of cool, how they have different situations. But it just seems like it all ends up in either, okay, I fight this ship, or I get something for free, or I get something taken. And I don't know.
Well, when it comes down to it, what else would you expect? You're going to have something in the encounter. I mean, there are times where there's nothing there too, I guess, but I think they've covered their bases. Either you show up and there's nothing to do, or you show up and you have to fight, or you have the choice to deal with them sometimes, depending on what system you're in as to how friendly or hostile they are towards you.
But it's only ever one ship.
True. Well, you're also only one ship too.
Yeah, but
really
with the animation, with the animation being so bland, I don't know. Just my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I understand where you're coming from with there's not a lot of action necessarily happening. It's very text-based as far as any of the story is going. There's nothing that's reading it to you or saying anything, so you have to read it and see what's going on. and then your ship is there, and the only thing moving in your ship are the doors, the people. Your weapons move a little bit, and the animation for the engines, and there's not much else going on with your enemy either.
Yeah.
So I understand where you're coming as from like an entertainment standpoint. Probably not the most visually appealing game. I mean, the edges I'm looking at right now, the edges of the ship are even jagged and pixelated, so it's not even like smooth animation of static items. But I mean, it's certainly going to appeal to people for different reasons, and I think that's probably what the game was getting at. Like, they're not going to wow anybody with graphic prowess. And Aaron, you like the music, but you know, David doesn't like it at all. I think it's more atmospheric than entertaining to listen to, so it's definitely going to appeal on different levels to different folks.
Yeah.
Now, I did hear they made a massive update to the game. Could you speak to any of that, Aaron? What they put in it compared to the base game?
Oh, you mean the advanced edition?
Yeah.
Let's see, what did they do? It's been a while. I've actually been playing on the regular version because I don't know, I'm not experienced enough. But
If you don't know, that's okay.
They added another race, the Lenarius, starts with an L. And the interesting thing about them is they're a race that survives in oxygen depleted areas. So they actually drain the oxygen out of a room that they're in. So they're
when they're
great
fighting
to
you, they're
put out
killing you
fires. They're great as fighters because it starves oxygen to the people that they're fighting. Their ship, whenever you unlock it, is just, it doesn't even have an oxygen system on it. So it's pretty cool. It's kind of interesting. Other than that, they added new quests and new little mini planet size things, but I don't think it added much else besides that other than new soundtrack stuff.
Okay.
And then there's a mod for it called the Captain's Edition, I think. And it actually adds more encounters and more races and stuff on top of that. So it can get pretty expansive.
Cool. I mean, I'm going to force myself to put a couple more hours in it before I put it down. Because I'm trying to get to the place where I see what everybody else sees. You know?
Yeah.
I think I see the light at the end of the tunnel when I'm playing a little better than Magicite, at least. Because you can see your progress and how far you're going. It's just hard then to understand what I need to do to get over that hump of that 3/4 mark, and then I get wasted every time by a ship.
Yeah.
So I'm intrigued enough and motivated enough that I want to get to the end, but it's definitely frustrating when it doesn't go that way. But of course, I only have 4 or 5 hours into it, so can I really expect to have beaten the game going into it blind in that amount of time? No, I shouldn't. I should expect to put more time into it. And so that's why I'm trying to be as fair as I can to it with balancing out my frustration on the game, because it's supposed to be hard, even on easy. And going into it blind, goodness, how could I expect to beat it in 5 hours?
That's true.
Yeah, but if you didn't beat it and you're not having any fun with it, that's different than expecting to beat it right away. You know?
True. That's true.
I have fun playing it, though. So my only reservations in the funness of it is when I lose suddenly to a ship, which is how I usually do it every time. I'll be going along just fine, and then all of a sudden just one ship just
freaking wrecks you.
Yep. So I have to figure out how to get past that ramping up of the difficulty as it goes. And I've done a better job. Like, the first time was awful, and then as I've done a better job of saving up materials and upgrading my ship in a more reasonable way, rather than just kind of all out upgrading and then not being able to buy anything to help me out. And It's a tough balancing act, for sure.
Okay. So, what do you guys give this game out of 10?
I'll go first. I know. I think I gave Magicite a 7, maybe. I don't know. I was gonna go back and look, and I would put this about the same. I definitely think it's a game worth having in the Steam library and worth playing. Although it's not a game that I'm gonna be like, I'm gonna play every day of the week because it's my absolutely favorite game, which is where I would reserve for the 10 level, where I really want to play this game and I'm putting time aside to do it. It's a really fun game when you've got some extra time or you're waiting for some guys to get on to play other things.
Yeah.
It's really good to just kick it back and play. And when you get a run going and you've only planned on maybe playing for 30 minutes and then everybody's like, come on, you gotta come and do this and it's time to do the dishes or something stupid like that. I'm like, well, but it's gonna take me about an hour to finish this now because I don't want to stop. Even that aside, I did realize later that it does save your progress, which is awesome.
Yep.
Yes.
That is good.
But yeah, it's super good. But I think that alone makes it surely worth having in your Steam library and playing from time to time. Although I would never be one to, like I said, go out of my way to play it. So that's why I would give it a 7.
Okay, Aaron?
I would probably give it like an 8. It's not like it's the best game ever, but it is definitely one of those games that you can just kind of mindlessly play at first while you're like watching a stream or something, and then once you get into the later stuff, you can focus your full attention on it and really, get heavily invested into it. So
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, I think I'm going to give it a 4 out of 10.
a 4,
Yeah.
as in you would actively remove it from your library.
Like I said, I'm going to force myself to play it more over the weekend, and that might change my opinion. But right now, I plan on uninstalling the game and never playing it again. I mean, the only reason it didn't get a 2 out of 10 is because it's a specific genre. I think they stuck to the genre, and the little text things, I think they're trying to interject some story in there and some interest, some dynamics in what you're doing and why you're doing it and that kind of thing. But from the combat to the soundtrack to the ship movement and enemies and enemy variation, I just didn't connect with me. So, oh well.
I'd be interested to know, and again, we're playing these games on limited time frames. If we were to give it more time, I'd be interested to see if that would change, because it seems like a more complex, in-depth game than Magicite. Whereas Magicite, when I got to town, I was usually never buying anything because I couldn't afford to. And in this game, you kind of can do that a little bit better. So,
but I think
I'd be
a valid criticism of a game. I didn't play more of this game because I didn't want to play more of this game.
Oh
You
yeah,
know,
and I'm not
if a game-
criticizing your review on that stance, because if you don't like it, you don't like it, and that's
Exactly.
fine.
And
It's nice to have a difference of opinion anyway.
Where,
so.
like I said with Magicite, once I did get a long run, then I had some fun with it, and that made me want to play more with it. I feel like I had a couple decent runs here, and like you said, just one enemy just takes you out without even trying, and I just don't feel that urge and that fun to play it anymore. To the point where I looked up a YouTube video for the last boss and thought, okay, maybe there's something here I'm missing. And then I saw them beating the last boss, and I'm like, this is still the same thing. Yeah, there's a little bit of variation in the upgrades that they got. Some of their lasers went past the shield, and it seems like their guys are healing faster, but it's the same combat. It's sort of the same thing. So... Any final comments?
No, I don't really think so. I mean, I am kind of disappointed that you disliked it so much, but, So it goes to each their own.
Well, yeah, and I feel really bad because, you know, our brother Daniel, he liked it so much he bought it for me and gifted it to me. Like 2 years ago. So, I mean, people love the shit out of this game, and I just don't get it.
Hey, it happens.
And I feel bad
like
for
them all.
not getting it. But I think this is a safe space that we can all talk about our feelings. And I'll just hug it out. And I'm not trying to shit all over your game.
No, you
That's
will.
it. Get out of here.
Oh man. So now we're getting into the territory of the game club where there's a string of my games that I put in here. So we'll see how you guys like the next couple of them.
Yeah, that'll be interesting.
Next week is the fall, and I think that you guys will like that one.
The fall.
Mm-hmm.
Install.
If nothing else, there's a story twist, I will say. And I think it's only 2 hours long, if I remember right, to beat it all. All right, so unless we all spend next week just trying to play Destiny instead of finishing the fall, we'll see you guys next week.
All right.
All right. See you later.
Bye-bye.